Well, welcome back to the channel. Today is June 12th, 2026 in the morning. I am a trader and amateur. Well, let me be clear, I'm an amateur trader and investor. I have a day job, which is not trading, so I can by no means be considered professional. So please keep in mind of that when I go over this chart. So today I want to talk about XRP, and specifically I'm on the Binance chart because this was the exchange that has held XRP the most that I could see. And I want to go over where XRP is at and maybe how far it's going to go down. Now, I am, just for disclosure's sake, a heavy investor into XRP. I hodled, committed the most foul sin to a trader, or is I hodled instead of selling close to up here, somewhere around here in the 250. I kept it all and have been accumulating more XRP as the years gone by. So that being said, let's go over it and let's see if my it's not really a bet, but let's just see if my risk and if my conviction is going to pay off in the end. We're not going to know that today. Hopefully, someday it will. But anyway, let's first start off with the history of XRP. So XRP is an old school coin. It's been around since August 13th of 2013. So it's practically old crypto wise. Now, one of the things I want to notice is these are kind of I'm looking at the monthly chart where each candle represents a month of price action. And we've had one, two, three kind of bull runs since 2013. You might could count this as a bull run here too, so maybe four. But looking at the first one, it it was in a bear market for about 2 years, and from its all-time high, it dropped about 83%. And this was during the range of 2015 to about February of 2017. Okay. On its next bull run, we're going to ignore this candle. That must have been a terrifying month. Okay, so it went from in specifically in December, it went from 0.0002 to let's see, $2.76. That was probably quite a ride. I was not invested in XRP then, but that must have put the shocker into a lot of people. But anyway, this particular bear market, it well, if you go from here, and I don't know why I put that all the way back there, but if you go from here, it was about 2 years, 5 months, and about a 97% drop. So if you take it from the high to here, it's about 97%. And then in the next, we'll call it bull market, you take this high to this low, it was about 82% loss, and 1 year and 8 months. So now that led into our latest bull run, which came up to here, which was it made a new all-time high of $3.67. And we have been in a bear market since. We are currently, since that particular high, been about 10 months, and we're at about minus 69% to 70% in loss. So the question is, okay, how low can Bitcoin go? So if you are, or at, when I said Bitcoin, but this is XRP, sorry. So how far can XRP go? Well, I can tell you right now, there are a lot of signs that we're in for more downside with XRP. I do not know how low XRP is going to go, but I've mapped out some possible target points. So here we are sitting at a support level, and and we are entering it. So the question is will this support hold? And this support level is about 95 cents to $1.05. So we're going to see if Bitcoin is going to just stop at $1. I suspect it's going to go further. On the October 10th, that was another one of these fun days, kind of like back here. We actually dropped to 77 cents. So even though there's this, I wouldn't call this a strong support line, we'll call it a point of interest. So maybe somewhere between 80 cents to 70 cents, we may want to consider that a possible drop point. Now, based on past bear markets, we got 82, 97, 83. So I've mapped out pretty much the worst. So minus 82% is about 41 cents. Minus 92 is about 26 cents. And if we have a 97% drop, that would be about 12 cents. Now, as we go down, since I'm more of a long-term trader and investor, I will probably start to. I already am, but I. A funny story is I had uh, a buy limit at $1, and I think it hit $1 like $1.0058 or something. So I missed my buy limit, never took. And I did the same. I did a buy limit on another asset called Solana, and I set it for $60, and it hit $60.02 something cents, and it never took as well. So keep that in mind when you do a buy limit. Think about the psychological level that you're doing. Maybe you want to do 60,000. I mean, so like on this particular XRP, maybe you want to do $1.0058 or something like that to see if it can, instead of just like $1 period, just something to think about. So I mentioned that I think we have more downside. So I'd like to kind of go over why I think we're going to have more downside. And the question is, I don't know how much downside, but I can just tell you we definitely are going down. And really, that's the question: is will it hit these limits? It's hard to say, but let's show you the proof that XRP probably has some more downside. So I'm going to bring up the 50 month, or actually it's the period moving average. So I'm going to bring up the 50 and the 200. So the 200 is red, and the 50 is this blue purplish line. I'm slightly colorblind, so I may have the color wrong. On the monthly chart, even though it's an old school crypto coin, it does not have a 200 period moving average. So we don't know where the 200 moving average is. I'm going to drop down to the weekly chart. And as you can see, the price is just now dropping on the weekly chart below the 200 period moving average, and the weekly 50 moving average is slowly going down, but it's not a really fast accelerating slope. Now, one thing to keep in mind is one way you can kind of rate if there's more downside on a particular asset or stock, and you can do this in the stock market as well, is I'm going to drop down to the 1-day chart. I'm just going to kind of go like this. And as you can see, on November 25th November 5th of 2025, we had our first death cross at the daily level. Death cross usually refers to the 50 moving average crossing the 200-day moving average. It can be the EMA, but in this case I use simple moving averages. On the 2-day, we had a death cross where this is where we're going up in time frame. And as you can see, the 50-day is still moving down. Each candle is representing 2 days of price action, and we had a death cross the next month on December 9th, 2025. On the 3-day, this is where each candle represents a 3 days of price action. The 50 moving average crossed on February 24th, 2026. And as you can tell, it took about 2 months to get to the death cross for this. So the rate of decline was starting to slow down a little bit. If you look at the 4-day, we just had a death cross on May 13th, 2026. And as you can tell on the 4-day, where each candle represents 4 days of price action, the 50 moving average is moving down. But again, we jumped death cross for the 3-day was March 2026. The 4th day was May. So the rate of descent is starting to slow, which is good news for XRP. That means we may be getting close to XRP ranging or stabilizing, and it may start, accumulating in the future, but there's still downside. The last one I want to take a look at is the 5-day chart. It has not had a death cross yet. However, it looks like it's going to have one soon. I don't think it's going to happen this month. If I were to guess, it may have a death cross in July. Now, one of the interesting things I want to look at when we're looking at death crosses is in May in May 2019 we had a death cross, and this is considered more of a shallow death cross. Again, we're looking at the 5-day chart. It's going to look more pronounced than on a daily chart. It wasn't that bad of a death cross, and so in May of 2019 it crossed down. Then it had its golden cross, which is where it crosses back up to its above the 200. Happened in February 2021. So this happened in June, and this happened in, it looks like, February 20th. So it was quite a period of time. Even though it didn't look that shallow, this represented a long period of time. If we were, maybe I should just measure that. Let's see, how many days was that? We're talking, okay, well, now I feel stupid. That says 611 days. Okay. All right. Our second death cross on the 5-day chart was here. This was September 2022. And we had the death cross, or we had the golden cross. Let's see. I don't know. It's saying it was about 600 days. So we could be several months off. That's bad news, but that's what we're seeing here. If we look at it from a weekly perspective, we had a death cross here in, let's see, December 2019, all the way to April of 2021, and it's saying that was 467 days. So definitely a little bit over a year, quite a bit over a year. And then over here, we had a death cross on the weekly chart, January 9th of 2023, and we didn't have it until the bull run, this was a little different. That was about 686 days. Now, one of the main differences between these previous death crosses is that the 200 moving average was not really angled very far, but look at how angled this 200-day moving average is. I don't think it's going to be 600 days just because the moving average is moving up, the 200. However, just to give you an idea, that's what it's done in the past. So just keep that in mind as you're waiting for XRP to essentially have its turnaround. Now, if we look at it from a daily perspective here, I'm going to add the 20 moving average. And as you can see, the 20 moving average is below the 50. It did cross up into, if we go take a look at this here, uh, it did have a slight cross up of the 50, but it wasn't to be, and it's back down. So we had a little bit of sideways action for a while. The price wasn't really respecting the 50 and the 20, but it was looking like it might possibly start to recover. But the 200 is moving down, the 20 is angled down, the 50 is angled down, and these are all signs of downward movement. I'm going to move to this other chart, and this is the this is the this is the same chart, except I have some different indicators turned on. I've got the relative strength index, I've got the stochastic RSI, the money flow index, and the MACD. Now, the RSI measures overbought, oversold, and this is the monthly view. And if you look at the monthly view, we are now the lowest point that we've ever been on the RSI. Therefore, the RSI thinks that we're fairly oversold. But again, as I was showing you, there's definitely appears to be more downside. Now, if we go take if you look at stochastic RSI, which measures momentum, there is no momentum. It's flat. It's at 1.08. There is no momentum driving XRP that the monthly market can tell. From the money flow index, this is volume versus price and whether it's oversold. We're at about 50. What this tells me is that people are like me. They are putting money into XRP. However, it's not driving price to go parabolic. And if you look at the MACD, we have moved from oversold and we're now moving towards bearish. And if you look at the histogram, it shows no signs of reversing yet. It is red. So what you want to see as far as reversing is you want to start to see this white bar kind of tail up, and you want to see this red start getting smaller bars. And we're not seeing that yet from a monthly perspective. If we drop to the weekly, we have not hit the lowest that on the RSI as we have on the monthly. Momentum is better, but it's still going down. The blue line is below the red line, and it looks like we're moving towards a reset. This, when the stochastic RSI gets below this bar, this 20 line, and the red line confirms below the Crony line, that typically doesn't make the stock do better. You will see ups and downs in the day, but there is no momentum driving the stock upward in price. And with the money flow index, it's saying that the volume has been going down. And this is normal. I mean, as we go lower, only certain investors will keep pumping money, and more and more will start exiting the market, and you'll start to see the volume start to slow down. And if you look at it from a MACD perspective, it thinks we're in the dumps. We're already in the bear side, and if you look at the histogram, where we had a little bit of yellow, now we're moving more to red again. So we can expect these red bars to possibly get lower, and we're seeing that this white is going down. And one of the things you can tell from this chart when we look at it from a weekly perspective, moving back to this one, is look at the moving averages. Very steep. And the the uh the 50 moving average is fairly steep, but the 20 is like going straight, almost straight down. If you look at the 8, it is very close to the 20, which is good. I mean, it was far away. Now it kind of, because of this sideways action, moved a little bit closer. But both of them are at a very terrible way down angle. If you want things to slow down with XRP, you want to start seeing them uh, flatten out and then kind of move up like this. And you want that 8 moving average to be on top of the 20. So you want them to do a cross, and you want this 8 to move up and the 20 to be behind it and move up, and then eventually come up and cross the uh, the 50 moving average. Excuse me. Now, on the last thing I want to do is I want to go to the daily chart here. And on the daily chart, what's interesting is I'm going to scrunch this up. And it's like I have this line drawn. It's this white line here. We have tagged the lowest point the RSI has gotten on the daily chart, but it's not the lowest it's ever been. Back here earlier in its time, it's gotten as far as low as here. It's gotten lower about right there. Therefore, this is another sign that I think we're in for some more downside with XRP. Where it is right now is again, this is the daily chart, so you're going to see a lot more ups and downs, a lot more momentums. Like for instance, this was back in April, and it dropped down. You had another cross here in May 29th, and it's dropped down. It crossed down on June 2nd, and now it's having another little bit of cross here, and you're kind of seeing the the green candle play out there. This is not the start of a bull run by any means. This is just what happens on the daily chart. What I find interesting is, like I said, we have not hit the lowest bottom of the RSI at the daily chart. The bad news is, if we go look on the daily here with the moving averages, and we've got the 8 moving average in white, the green is the 20, the blue 50, and you got the red. And as you can tell, they're starting to space apart again. When it was ranging, they became really close together, and usually you'd like to see, like I said, this to start moving up, but now they're starting to space out again, and they're starting to get steeper. And the 200 moving average on the daily chart is going on a steeper decline. That's why we have some more downsides showing up. You will. So now the next question is, okay, how can you tell when things are getting better? Well, from a daily perspective, you want to see this. If we go back to the bull run of 2025, and this was actually happened in June, which was pretty exciting. As you could tell, XRP was kind of in a, it had gone down some more, but it was in a, it was in a it essentially was in a bull flag. So you had a little bit of move up here, and then you started having this move down here. Okay, and that wasn't probably the best place to put but this is essentially a bull flag. And then from the bull flag low, it started to move up. And one of the things you'll notice is that the moving averages were very clumped together. The 50 wasn't very far. Uh, the the 8 moving average crossed above the 20, and then things really started to kick off when the 20 crossed the 50, which was about right here. And this, once you started getting this formation where the 8 is above the 20 and the 20 is above the 50, that's when things get cooking. And you'll notice this 200 moving day average, even though it was down a little bit, it was fairly flat. Your most explosive moves happen when you have a flat moving 200 moving average and you have a crossover either up it or down it with the 3 moving averages. And as you can tell, for a period of time, it just started to really rocket, and it was pretty quick. Now this is the daily chart. So if you look at it from once this formation occurred where the 9 crossed the 20, and then once this 20 hit, let's say right about here, that was July 25, and it hit its peak in July of 2025. The reason I mention that is this period of days, even though it starts here, to get to its highest point, it was 30 days. That means that when the real fun with XRP starts and you see this really big explosive move up, it's not going to last months and months and months and months. It's going to be fairly quick. So once you start to see this price explode off the 20, I'm going to remove the 8 here. I want you to see how far this price exploded above the 20. That's when you should consider taking some profits on the table. It's just that's what you should do, is because even though it rised back here, this would, if you had missed taking some profits here, if you made a major exit here, then you were in good shape. But again, there is no guarantee that as this gets so far from the 20, drops down, even though it was caught by the 50, there's no guarantee that this particular movement is going to move up to a newer high. I just want you to keep that in mind, that unless, so essentially it had a 1 month bull run. And there's evidence that, XRP might do something similar again. I just don't want you to be thinking that, oh, this bull run is going to last 6 months or something. It may, but most likelihood we're talking fairly fast bull run, and you can kind of know that you're near the end when, if you look at this from the daily perspective, you see that the price is getting really separated from the 20, and you can also tell it's really separated from the 8. So when it gets separated from the 8 pretty bad, and it's really separated from the 20, that's when you should consider probably taking profits. If you look at it from a RSI standpoint, this is that same period. Do you see how far the RSI said that this was oversold? So when you get to oversold in the top 80s and you're at the highest point that it usually is, that means it's time to consider taking profit. Anytime that you go above 70, you should be on the lookout of when to take profit. When it crosses 70, doesn't mean you immediately take profit. But how would you take profit in this particular case? I would do stop losses. Therefore, put your stop loss under each bar. And that way, when it crosses down, even though you're not necessarily going to get the highest top, you will get a good portion of that top. And that's all you can expect. Even the greatest traders can never claim that they know that the highest price for an asset is going to be $3.63, and that's when you should have your stop loss. And they're not going to know that it's going to go down to this lowest point here of 77 cents. They just don't know that. Instead, what they recognize is when you're at the extremes and it is time to take profit. But that's the hardest time to take profit because you have so many emotions tied to it. You're thinking, "Oh, am I gonna miss out?" That's why they call it FOMO, fear of missing out. So I've talked for a really long time about XRP, probably because I'm so invested in it. Uh, I hope this helps out, and I guess maybe in the comments below, but think where you think the price is going to go. I have no clue. All I can tell you is that it has more downside, and I think one of those limits are going to get hit. I would recommend doing buy limits, and the reason why I would say buy limits is because this may happen in the middle of the night. You just don't know. So, but if you have a buy limit, it'll just be touched. So, if you're interested in accumulating more XRP, there's going to be a fire sale going on, and you have a chance to get a 2-for-1 special, maybe, uh, or you get a 1 point, or if it comes down to 77 or 75 cents, you can definitely get more XRP for the buck. Well, that's all I have today. Hope God blesses your day.